All right, I'd like to call the Village of Cottage Grove public meeting to order, Plan Commission on Wednesday, August 9th. It is 6:31 on my watch. We are holding this as a hybrid meeting, meaning that we are in the Village Hall as well as on Zoom. Zoom link is at the top of the agenda, as well as a call-in for the audio as well. With that, we have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, then we have discuss and consider our meeting minutes from our Plan Commission meeting held on July 12th. Any questions, comments, edits regarding the meeting minutes as presented?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
All right, we got a first by Heidi. Is there a second? Second by Fred.
Second.
Delayed by Troy for the technology. Any further discussion? Having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Next then, we're going to open a public hearing, opportunity to provide input for a request from William Ryan Homes for approval of a zoning map amendment to changes lots 1 through 58. Lots 1, 8, and through 62. With the Shady Grove subdivision from rural holdings to...
What about agenda item 4?
Oh, sorry, Fred. I jumped right to public hearing.
I don't think there's anything, but...
Yeah. Jump back to item 4 is public appearances. This is public's opportunity to speak on any subject. If you are from the public, we just wish you to share your name, your address, your municipality, and hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes in case we have a number of folks who like to speak. Anybody in the room or on Zoom? All right. Then we'll move back down to opening up a public hearing again.
Did you want to talk about the one you received?
I will when we get to that. I'll
Okay.
let them present first.
Perfect.
Yep. Again, this is a request from William Ryan Homes for approval of zoning map amendment to changes for lots 1 and 58 through 62 in the Shady Grove subdivision from rural holdings to two-family residential. To start this off, we'll actually have William Ryan, Representative Deborah, or Debbie, come up and share with both the commission and the public what they're planning. Yes, and then if there's a little button with a person on it, push that on the little thing, and then it'll light up as red, and then you'll be able to, yep, you got it.
I'm too short. I need to be able to see my presentation at the same time. Thank you for your time tonight. I just wanted to come and share with you what we were looking to do at Shady Grove. Well, when we originally purchased the property, as you had mentioned, the multi-family portion at the top had not been rezoned so that it could be rezoned at a later time when there was an actual plan for the product there. Back in February of, how do I move that? There's page down. Actually, I'll go back, and for anybody who's not familiar with us, we are a national home builder, 32 years strong. We build in Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago, Dallas, Tampa, Fort Myers, and Phoenix. We've been building in Wisconsin since 1998, and we are a builder of well-appointed single-family homes, currently building in Shady Grove. The property that we're talking about is Shady Grove, which is located at the corner of Bus and BB, or Cottage Grove Road. Currently building single-family homes there. The parcel that we're speaking of is the part along Cottage Grove Road, the multifamily parcel per the comp plan. And again, it wasn't originally zoned in the beginning because we didn't know whether it would be apartment buildings, townhomes, duplexes, whatever. Back in February of 2021, I believe it was, I came before Plan Commission and presented a multitude of products based on conversations that I was having with different people who might purchase the property from us, and presented their product. And I think there's a picture of, these are the types of product that I presented back in February of 2021 that received favorable reviews from Plan at that time. Since then, in trying to sell the property and knowing that we had homeowners that were purchasing homes at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, I no longer felt comfortable selling the piece to somebody else and not being able to have control over what would go in there, and to kind of protect the value of the people that we're selling homes to. So we have decided to move forward with a duplex product, or a zero lot line single-family home. They'll be sold as single-family homes, zero lot line, to complement our own product. So the outside exterior elevations will mirror those of the single-family homes using the Cottage. I think there's, if you go down more, these will be the homes that we're looking to build. They complement our current homes that are there with the Cottage and the farmhouse elevations. And then I can, do the quality control. I can make sure that the products are similar and be able to control the whole thing. So that's what we're looking to do, is to go to a paired villa type program, zero lot line, single family homes. For that purpose, we're looking to make sure, again, that they're of the same quality of the single family homes. That would give us 24 units. They'll all be new construction, and again, same quality as our single family homes. And that's about all I had.
Thanks, Kevin. Kick it over to staff and walk through what no open.
Yeah, so there's actually a few different actions they're requesting us to take tonight. The first would be rezoning the entire section along the frontage there, and then they're seeking 2 CSMs, breaking up 2 of the individual lots. You can't create more than 4 lots with a CSM. We have to go to a plat. So the remainder of those land divisions would be pursued as a plat at a later date. I think the intent was to get started on model homes sooner than later, and that's why they're seeking the CSMs. So as far as the comp plan consistency, the smaller lots along the frontage are designated for duplex development now. Lot 58, which is that larger lot right on the corner of Bus Road, was designated as suitable for anything from commercial to mixed use, multifamily, or duplex. So any of those uses would be appropriate there. With planned neighborhoods, we have kind of a typical unit type breakdown, unless the specific neighborhood is specified differently, but this one is in that typical category, which would be a minimum of 65% single family, up to 15% duplex, and up to 20% multifamily. And the way the planned neighborhood is defined, it's not just Shady Grove, it's also the land to the south that would eventually be connected if that develops when Bus Road runs through there. In that area to the south, the way that's designated in the comp plan is all single family, so there wouldn't be duplex or multifamily down there. So we kind of estimated the conservative number of units that could likely be built down there to determine the number of duplexes they could have, and I think, in my opinion, they would be meeting that. So we wouldn't have any conditions on the rezoning Strand, I think Josh is on the line, but they just had a few minor comments on the CSMs, a few numbers, and little tweaks on some of those things.
Thanks, Aaron. Then we'll go to public's opportunity, because it's a public hearing portion, since we wanted to cover at least the overview for the public and then allow the public to chime in if they wish. I did get a call before this from the town resident right next to this development, Micah Zilke, at 2917 Cottage Grove Road. Just wanted to voice his not support of the duplexes. Asked what happened to the concept plan that was from a couple of years ago, which Debbie referenced as well as an option. So just wanted to voice that. Anybody else in the public, either in the room or on Zoom, would like to speak on this particular item? Yes, if you wish to speak on this particular item from the public, this is your opportunity to do so. So, yeah, please. And don't want to put you on the spot, but you're putting yourself on the spot. Yeah, no. Make sure you press the little button that's got the little percent. It should turn red. Right there you go.
Okay, my name is Debbie Galley, and I'm in the lot right next to lots 1 and 2, I believe, of the proposed plan. So I'm at 550 Fundamental Way, and so we're very interested in this project. Can I ask a question first? And we're just not clear when we talk about duplexes and the 0 lot zoning. So does that mean there will be 4 homes next to me next to Cottage Grove Road? 2. Okay, that does clear up some things. I was like, how many homes, how many extra neighbors are we gonna get? While we enjoy this neighborhood, we enjoy the quality of homes that William Ryan has been able to build so far, and so we're hoping that if this plan goes forward, as Debbie Beaver was saying, the quality is the same. We are concerned about the increase in traffic with these extra lots. I have a kid who obviously I couldn't get rid of today. Our neighbors are always walking their dogs around. We're concerned about the overuse of the utilities. So we just have those kinds of neighborhood concerns. And our other concern is, as you're talking about the zoning, we understand the kind of quotas of minimum of 65% single-family homes and so on and so forth. I understand that's contingent on the south end being developed and constructed, and it seems a little bit too forward planning to do duplexes before we know for certain that those other single-family homes will be developed. Considering that I think it's 56 right now, and we'd need an additional 58, the plan said, and so half the single-family homes aren't even like in development, like it's still a field. I don't know. So we're a little concerned that we're jumping the gun on the duplexes without a firm plan on that to make the zoning quota or whatever it is work. That being said, we're willing to work with William Ryan and the city of Cottage Grove to find a way that makes this neighborhood a great place. We enjoy Cottage Grove, and we wanted to make it a safe, good place to continue to live. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room or on Zoom would like to speak? All right, then we'll close the public hearing portion of this and move on to the next item, which is to discuss and consider this request from William Ryan Homes. And this is towards the commission. Again, adjusting the zoning map for changes lots 1 and 58 through 62, again in the Shady Grove subdivision, from rural holdings to 2-family residential. So, comments, questions from commission members?
Is there a way to put that specific map up so we know what we're looking at? I'm visualizing it is tough because there's split lots, and it's just like, what exactly are we looking at, if that's possible?
Aaron's working on it.
That's fine. Because I guess the one map I'm seeing is there's 4 main lots across Drumlin Ridge, and it talks about splitting them into 2s, but then I'm counting this one drawing and there's 16 slivers now, so that's more than 2 per lot, so I'm not sure what I'm looking at. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right stuff, so, thanks. Yeah, so I guess my question is, I guess around that, so that's the drawing I was looking at. It shows 16 around the sweep. The lot was originally lot 1, which is the odd shape of the entrance, is now 6. But like in the minutes, or in the agenda, it's like, hey, we're gonna split these. You know, we're gonna split lot 1 into 2 lots. We're gonna split, lot 59 into 2 lots and 1 outlot, and it doesn't, like, it just looks like there's a lot going on there that don't match what I'm seeing, or am I
Yeah, this
seeing wrong?
is, so what they're asking for tonight is just the CSMs on 2 of these to create some of these parcels. To create all of the duplex parcels they want to ultimately create, they would need to come back and do a plat, preliminary plat, final plat, to fill the rest of them in into basically what you're seeing here. But that's a longer process, and I think William Ryan's hoping to start on a model house sooner and come back to this later.
I'm sorry to jump ahead. So all 8, so the 7, 8, and 9, because they're all tied together. I don't want to hurt my brain more than I have to, right? Just so I understand the sequence. So item 7 is the rezoning of all of those lots,
Yep.
but not approving the actual cutting of the lots,
Correct.
in essence. Okay, so then 8 is the approval to cut just lot 1.
Yes.
And then item 9 is the approval to just cut lot 59
Yes.
and lot 59 is gonna get cut into 3 parcels.
2 buildable and 1 outlot that'll become something buildable when the whole thing is platted out.
So it's not really an outlot, it's still a buildable lot that's not approved to be built on.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. It's
When
not
I think of outlot,
buildable.
I'm
It's not
thinking like, oh,
buildable
it's
through
gonna
the
be a park,
CSM. Would have
it's
to
a
go
green
through the rest.
space, it's a water retention area. When I think outlot, I think like, hey, it's already done, it's for purpose, we need it as a,
Usually that's what it is. This is kind of a little bit different
okay,
process.
all right, I'm more clear, thank you.
Brett?
I guess I'm confused as to what the development concept looks like. We agreed previously to reconsider this once we knew what it was going to look like. And I know we had a great deal of discussion about which way the garages were facing, so.
Please, Debbie.
So yeah, when I came to Plan Commission before, I had looked to do a rear-loaded product. I kind of walked away from the meeting feeling like that's not what you guys wanted. You didn't want the garages facing Cottage Grove Road, where that was kind of like the entrance to town. So these are front-facing. Can you put the product back up there, Aaron? These are really 2 single-family homes just attached on one wall. So in the plan, each one of those lots is actually 1 unit. So it's not 1 lot is 2 units like it would be on a normal duplex. There's only 1 plan per lot, or 1 house per lot. It's just they will side together and attach on the lot line. And these homes, that's what they would look like, street side facing into the community. And again, the exteriors will look just like the single-family homes. They'll just be smaller and attached.
We don't have that.
So typically, a site plan, like we would do for a larger building, is not required for a duplex. If that's something we want to see as a condition of approving, then
I'm
that's something we
just-
can apply to them.
I'm hung up on the fact that we said we would see a specific development, and I'm not seeing the development. So it's just theoretical right now. And we're going to potentially allow them to build their spec townhouses. I mean, what's the rest of it gonna look like?
At least, my understanding is you're doing all duplexes with this.
Yeah, the entire site are those two buildings, and they are, the draft of the plat that I put in there is the plat that we are requesting to get approved.
Okay,
So Deb, what's,
And the product is less dense than the developments that I had shown in February of 2021. This is less homes than what I presented then.
what would prevent someone from buying up a bunch and putting them as rentals?
From a management standpoint, I don't like to sell to renters because they're not, when somebody buys a single-family home, they're emotionally invested in it and they put up earnest money. People who are buying them for rental, you know, if the investment is bad or the market goes bad, they walk away from their earnest money. And we're a builder of single-family homes for families. We're not, you know, into the investment thing. So I guess there's no guarantee, right? I mean, if somebody wanted to come in and buy them, but that's not who I'm marketing to and it's not what I'm looking to do.
That's worked, I mean, the zero lot line has worked well in the village when we do have actual homeowners.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, these people will own their homes and it is a single-family home except they just share one
Right.
common wall.
Yeah, we've done it a lot.
They own their own lot.
Yep.
Right.
I have a couple of questions, maybe staff or Josh at Strand can help with. So I just wanted to go back to the comments made earlier about utilities and traffic, and maybe Josh, you might be able to help talk about how the streets were, you know, are designed and how that flows traffic, or how the utilities are in the community to support, you know, additional development outside of the single-family homes there? And maybe other staff can chime in too. I just wanted to, yeah, go ahead.
Right, you know, these lots were all kind of created as Debbie was saying for, you know, multifamily use of some sort, right? It's probably even less dense right now, the way she's showing it, than probably it could have been with some of those other plans earlier, as she mentioned. The roads will handle the traffic. There's the right out, or the right in, right out fundamental way. And the bus road, you know, has that signalized intersection coming in. So I'm not overly worried about the traffic side of things. Will there be more vehicles on the streets than there is out there now? Yes, especially as all the rest of the houses build out and this builds out. But I don't think it would be anything that wasn't anticipated when this was first, you know, being thought of and developed as part of the traffic side of things. As far as utilities, interesting enough, is a lot of these lots, because there wasn't really a known use at the time. You know, there was one water service and one sanitary run to all the lots. So, you know, the sanitary can remain single as long as you can kind of get a maintenance agreement between the two owners, you know, put on those properties. But the water needs to be split per code. So the utility, the village's utility would like a new water service be run into, you know, that extra lot that's split. So each lot that's there now has one water service. One of the houses can keep that. The other one's going to need a new one off the main. What that means is there's going to be a requirement to dig back out in the road, tap into the main, and bring another water service in for those homes. But as far as sewer and water are concerned, the capacity in the ground, the size of the sewer for the flow, that's all been sized. You know, Heidi, to take this and even you know, something that may have been even a little bit more dense than what is proposed here even, so.
Okay, thanks so much. And then the other question, maybe Aaron, if you want to chime in on the comp plan and the mix of housing sizes, and just, I want to cover how that gets planned out and built out, like in real life versus the concepts on, in the comp plan.
Yeah, I guess when we looked at the neighborhood boundaries, it was more not necessarily which pieces under which ownership and who's going to get developed at which time. It's more when it's ultimately built out, is this going to function as a neighborhood or not? And, you know, with the continuation of Bus Road, it kind of made sense to consider all of this together. Yes, we are projecting what the southern area would look like, but that's kind of what the longer term planning is. We kind of make our best guesses and assumptions about what something should be in the future.
Okay, thanks, Erin. And I guess my other comments on, I wasn't on the plan commission at the time of the last concept, so I just wanted to go back to, I'm sure we had this discussion about it being a main corridor when you come into the community, and there are a number of large trees there now, and that portion of the street may never become urbanized with curb and gutter since it's adjacent to the town development. But it is an important entryway into the community, so I'm not sure, it's important to me to maintain like that beautiful, welcoming aesthetic as we drive in. So that's something, I'm not sure if we can add that as conditions or how that might work, but I think keeping the aesthetics as we drive into town would be very important. I think it's been labeled, some elected official ideas would be Village of Cottage Grove, like sign that puts our community events at the beginning at the intersection, but that might be a little too far. So I think the landscaping and such along the corridor and how the backs of the buildings are look, I think would be something important to me, and I'm sure important to you too. The level of quality of building in your neighborhood is, you know, it's a nice addition. They're beautiful homes. So,
And we do have for the, what we're calling paired villa homes, they'll have landscape packages on them already because most of these people are looking for maintenance free, which is why they generally get a smaller sized home site and they want attached housing as they're looking for less maintenance. So we will be putting in, you know, bushes and stuff around their entire home for landscaping. So, I mean, if we're looking to make, keep in mind, right, I still have, you know, roughly 45, you know, $500,000 to $1 million homes to build. I'm not looking to, like, devalue, you know, the products that we're selling or the homeowners that we've already sold to, or make it more difficult for me to sell homes. One of the reasons we went this route, it was because I wanted to try and do something less dense than what was originally suggested and agreed to, that I'm looking to actually do something a little nicer than what it was before. I mean, there was an apartment building planned for 59, right? You know, I'm gonna replace it with 8 houses instead of, I think it was 24-unit apartment building. So I mean, we are, you know, trying to make it look nicer, make it look more like a nice entry when you came in. We got rid of the rear-loaded garages in order to help, right, that be a visible, it's kind of like the first planned project on the way into town.
Yeah, it's I mean, having attainable ownership in our community is a challenge, as it is across all of Dane County. But I think that having this type of product available for people downsizing, first-time buyers, you know, having some kind of attainable ownership and, you know, start to build that equity in a property, I think is something that would be very valuable in our community. So.
It's funny you say that because our first couple of people who are interested in doing that is a mother whose parents have already, of the daughter who's already purchased in our neighborhood, wants to be close to her grandkids, can watch the kids after school, et cetera. And the other one's a divorced man who wants to be in the same school district as his kids. And so, I mean, we're promoting to families, you know, that maybe can't buy the $500,000 house.
Aaron, could you for a second just go back to the plat? I just, maybe Deb, I could help just kind of describe something to make sure everybody kind of understands. There was a couple questions by the commission members. And I don't know if I can request control for a second. I'm gonna try it, Aaron. I don't know if you can give me control. Is the screen's not working there? The screen's not working on your guys' end?
I clicked approve.
Oh, this one?
Can you see my mouse?
Cuckoo for cuckoo.
It dropped it off. Okay, I was just gonna outline a couple things to show kind of how all that would work, but it's not showing on my end anymore, so I apologize.
Josh, can you at least explain what you're trying to, and maybe
Yeah.
Aaron can
Well,
point?
Yeah, I was going to just kind of show where, you can see the kind of darker boundaries, right? And I was gonna show where lot 1 and 2 were the two lots that we're talking about today that we're splitting, and just draw how Aaron, go over to those two right there.
One
So
is here.
those two were splitting into one, and then the bottom 59, a little further down, those two were splitting into one, right? So then the rest of this, that's all outlined and that's bolded. I mean, if you take those two lots, each one, you take two at a time. I mean, you can envision that a unit's gonna go on two of those, and the center of the unit's gonna be centered on the lines, right? So you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Did you say on the kind of that long part, Deb? And then in the wider kind of rainbow kind of slices over there, you're gonna have a few others.
So say that again?
It's kind of hard to describe. I'm more of a drawer.
I'm just gonna point. Oops.
Oops.
So this is lot 20 and 19, so this will be two different single-family homes, but attached on the lot line. And then this will be 2 units attached on the lot line, 2 units attached on the lot line, so forth, and 2 units attached on the lot line.
Just because Debbie was away from the microphone there, so everyone can see on, so like 1 and 2 on the corner of Bus, that's kind of one set.
Here?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
one
it's
set.
Right,
Okay.
this is one home, and they're attached together on the lot
The
line.
lot line is like the dividing
Yep.
point.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And Debbie, all the driveways will be access into
Into
to the neighborhood. Yeah.
Right. And they're all 2-car garage, so they all have 2-car driveways, so there should be plenty of parking for people to park their own cars in their 2-car garage and their 2-car driveway. So they'd have to have more than 4 cars if they're parking in the street.
We went back to, we were talking about process a little bit earlier, Alex, maybe your mic's, okay. So it's the rezone and then the CSM, so there will be 2 sets of villas built on the CSMs that we'd be approving tonight in the next, is that kind of
There
the,
should be 4 single-family.
4, okay.
Does that come back for approval, those specific site plans? I don't know the right word for it.
Well, normally per our ordinance, we would not do a site plan review on a duplex. You could put that as a condition on the rezone if you do want to see them again.
So what are the, so I'm looking at the file for lot 59, I think it is, the bottom one. That's the one that gets split into 3. And then there's another file that's, has the conceptual drawings for the homes, and then there's also the picture that you showed. And so, listening to the neighbor there as well. So it looked like some of the homes, the foyer is at the side. So if that is built, I'm jumping around, sorry. If that is built in lot 1, the front door is actually facing the neighbor's house, right? And so and then also looking at the dimensions, the duplex, it's running, this one end that was given to us is 64 feet wide. So, where is it? Where's my drawing for that? So many drawings. Here it is. It's a little over 80 feet, 80, 90 feet, again, jumping around. 59 is gonna get split into 3. You're gonna do lots 1 and 2, so the corner, and then the next one, then the next one's an outlot, so it's holding. And there's this massive easement behind it. And I think that's part of the struggle that we had in prior as well, is like, okay, how does this all fit? Especially with that massive easement, with the garages, and how does the road cut through, and good concepts, and it just seems really tight. I don't know, Aaron, if there's a historical number you can give for the standard width of a duplex frontage, but it's gonna be tight. You know, zero, obviously a duplex, it's 0 lot line, we know what that is, they're together. What's it gonna be between buildings? Like a couple feet, or we're gonna have a standard gap, or
It
like
has to be at least 16. It's an 8-foot setback.
8
from-
foot on
from
each
that
side?
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
So they may have that? I'm not sure yet. I mean, I guess looking at the drawings, I'm not sure.
and especially on this lot is huge. So this would be the lot that we were least concerned about.
It's, well, lot
The area
1,
goes to
sorry.
the curve,
Mm-hmm.
right, where the buildings are like this, we had to maintain the 16 feet at its closest point. So for the most part, these homes are further than 16 feet apart, except at that one moment where they're, you know, it's not like.
Because the weird angles, yeah.
Right.
So that where you're pointing to lot 1, that first one,
I
that's,
submitted plats for these, didn't I, the CSMs? Do we have that?
Yeah.
because that lot 1 is 33, the lot 1 where you're gonna break into 2, this drawing, it's, at the top and the bottom, the bottom one is only 33 feet wide. And so is that foyer gonna point at the neighbors, or are you tending to have the front door pointing towards the road? Like, what structure are you gonna put in there? What building? Because you had 2 different plans in the one document.
On this one, the door that faces sideways.
So it'll be facing the neighbor's property,
Right.
the house.
Not the house.
And then the other one will face the road.
Correct.
It'll face BB, it'll face Cottage Grove Road. Oh crap, I think I closed the file.
I guess the 2-story one, the front entrance is like straight on when you look like for both of them. But then the ranch style, the entrances are along the side, is that, okay.
Right.
So we're, yeah,
Yeah, so there's a single-story floor plan concept in our packet, thanks, Eddie. A single story that shows stairs with the foyer from the sides. And then, a 2-story plan, 60 feet wide for both houses. 30, does that even add up? Yeah, 32 foot wide on each unit. So if it's a 32-foot wide unit on a 33-foot wide property, how is that 16, how's that 8 foot?
Can you do the?
I think, is it,
the lot?
Alex, is it 33 to that, like node on the
To that
line?
node, to the dot?
Yeah, that's,
Is it 58 in the back? I guess it's
58
where, I
in the
guess, yeah,
back, yeah.
maybe, yeah, you're right, maybe I'm interpreting
So
the
lot-
numbers weirdly.
One CSM.
Because the back shows 58, is that 58 feet across?
so is it,
Well, nonetheless, they have to maintain the setbacks.
right,
Yeah.
that is true.
Fair enough, thanks. And the reason I ask, I want to make sure we're doing this right, so we don't have to come back and say, hey, there's an adjustment, we missed the footage, it's crammed out, and we gotta come back, right? It's not, yeah, so. I don't look at easement maps every day like Aaron does, so.
I can say the widths and the lot sizes and the CSMs are consistent with what they would need to be for that zoning district.
I mean, for a duplex lot, 14,000 square feet, I mean, it's pretty huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost as big as some of the other single-family lots within the neighborhood.
It's long and skinny, yeah. I guess the only question for Village is the Cottage Grove Road. If it went to 4 lanes, how is there impact to these properties? Would you have to carve into them, eminent domain them, pull in some easement? I mean, we know it's,
The easement's already there.
we have it, you have the land if you need to go to 4 lanes and it's
It's already dedicated.
Yeah.
Cottage Grove, or BB, right? Yeah, okay.
And it's one of the reasons, and it's not huge, but one of the things I did here was, this lot line didn't split this lot directly in half. I wanted to pull it down a little bit so it wasn't sitting right on the road.
Is there sidewalks on both sides? So that main trunk, do you have sidewalk on the duplex side, or is it sidewalk on one side?
You mean on the roadway,
What road is
or
it?
on the unit itself?
Drumlin Ridge Drive, so that main road, you're gonna, where
Yeah,
the,
there's sidewalks on both sides.
there's sidewalks
of
on
all
both
the
sides.
roads, yeah.
Okay.
Debbie, what's the price point for these for the approximately?
I'm hoping that we can get them at $350.
Okay.
But inflation and costs coming in tough because, like I said, these are gonna have stone and brick on the front. They have, I don't know if you probably couldn't see it in the entryway, but the entries that are on the side of the duplexes, they actually have stone, porches on them that have stone that go up and over the side of them. So you don't have a big long run of siding on the side of them. So I don't want to make these cheap looking. I want them to look like they're highly amenitized, single family homes. I don't want them to look like they're multifamily.
Other questions from commission members?
I guess just to piggyback on one of Aaron's comments, like there were some commission comments about the site planning, or like basically you approve this rezone and then there's no site plan after that. So Aaron's right, we could do like a condition of the approval and make it sort of like a precondition where they need to get a site plan approved by the village, or like the design approved by the village before the rezoning would actually go into effect. That's one potential option if you wanted to bring the actual like more specific concepts back.
Aaron, real quick, because I wanted to bring this plat here today and get it approved, but I can't remember why we couldn't do that. It needed,
Plats are due further ahead of the meeting, it was like a 30-day, yeah.
but
we
this
had passed that.
plat that you see is the very plat that I'm submitting to approve. That's why I felt comfortable with doing the CSMs, because I'm only platting part of what the eventual plat will be.
Could you turn the microphone on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's on, you're by two
I'm
of them.
traveling. Oh, that's not me.
Any other questions or comments from commission members? Otherwise, this is discuss and consider.
I do have one question. The idea of it being owner occupied, is there any way, I mean, I think we could make that as a condition if we decide to approve this, but how do we enforce that if someone buys it and 2 years later their situation changes and they decide to make that into a rental property? Is there a way to tackle that?
This has came up before.
Yeah.
So from a regulatory standpoint, I think it'd be difficult. One thought would be covenants placed against the lots that they wouldn't be able to be used for rentals. They would have to be owner occupied. I don't have the exact language in mind, but that was my immediate thought, would be that is sort of the simplest way to address it, because that is perpetuity.
Great, thanks. I guess I'm concerned that everybody's situation changes in life, and all of a sudden it turns into rental properties, and again, in general, they just don't take care of the property as well as someone that's got skin in the game. So, thank you.
So the covenants would have to be from William Ryan, correct?
Correct. I would say you could strongly suggest them. I'm not sure about requiring them.
Because these are also single-family homes too, right? So it's not condo ownership.
Do you have covenants in the rest of the neighborhood?
We do, but they don't tell people what they can and can't do in their
Mhm.
private residences.
Is it about maintaining property and things like that, or are there, I guess sometimes we see the examples, I've seen,
Yeah, that was part of the plat review. There were things specific to like trees that had to stay and things like that.
But the single-family homes have nothing about rentals or being rented out, or? No.
No, I mean, if Debbie got transferred back to Colorado today, right, we wouldn't mandate, she couldn't rent her home to have to move back to Colorado. We wouldn't restrict that.
I guess unless other commissioners have questions, I'd be willing to make a motion to approve the zoning map amendment to change lots 1 and 58 through 62 in the Shady Grove subdivision from RH to TR8, two-family residential, with a condition to bring the landscape plan. I guess this could be on one of the later items if it's more appropriate there. Rick, you can help me out. To bring the landscaping plan to staff to maintain the quality outlined in the comp plan for a main corridor.
I would put it on this.
On this, okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense on here.
I'll second it.
Do you want just the landscaping plan, or do you want to see where the buildings lay out? Because there seem to be a lot of questions about that too.
Yeah, we could add that in, the building layout and landscape plan.
Are you okay with that as a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would frame it as village pre-approval of a site plan and landscaping plan.
Captured that, Lisa? Okay,
Can the
thank you.
motion be read back, please, in its entirety?
Motion by Murphy to approve the, oh, I have zoning, but I think you said rezone. Amendment with conditions to bring the building layout, site plan, and landscaping plan back to staff.
Thank you.
I would say require approval from the village. Yeah.
And that means plan commission and board, or board?
I would say right now it's just board. Procedure-wise, it makes sense to bring it to plan commission, but the board would have the final say.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't want to, we got, how many hurdles do you have to go through? If it's just some entity of the village
Mhm.
sees it and approves it, or
I mean, I would be fine designating that to staff to review, to make sure it maintains the standards we set in the comp plan, but I'm open to other suggestions from, can we delegate that, or?
Yeah, that could be delegated to staff if you want. Yeah.
That was my intent with the motion, but if that's fine with you, or, other suggestions.
we got a motion second then. Fred, do you need it read back or no? You
No,
got it?
I understand it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Having heard none, then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Next, then we slide to discuss and consider a request from William Ryan Homes for the approval of a certified survey map to divide Lot 1 in Shady Grove subdivision into 2 lots.
Just a reminder, this did have conditions in the staff report. As Josh mentioned, providing the new water service, typically for duplexes, we require a maintenance agreement to get recorded, and then just a few number tweaks that need to be cleaned up a little bit.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the certified survey map to divide Lot 1 in the Shady Grove subdivision into 2 lots with the same conditions as the last motion and all the staff requirements.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second then. Any further discussion? Having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Next is discuss and consider a request from William Ryan Homes for the approval of certified survey map for Lot 59 in Shady Grove subdivision into 2 lots and 1 outlot.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a certified survey map to divide Lot 59 in the Shady Grove subdivision into 2 lots and 1 outlot with all conditions of staff and the same conditions as the last 2 motions.
I'll second. And I do have, just back on the outlot again, we're not sure what the intent of the outlot is, or do you have something in mind? I can't recall
We
if that
do.
was.
The outlot will become another attached single-family home,
Mhm.
but the CSM can only divide in 2 right now.
Okay. All right,
So it'll
thank
go
you.
with the next lot over.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right. Then next we have discussed the housing type mix in planned neighborhood number 6, AKA Really property.
Yeah, so we talked about this generally a little bit back in May. One of the proposals that came out of the housing task force was tweaking those percentages that came up again here with Shady Grove tonight. But this looking a little more specifically at the 2001 Realty property that's also designated as a planned neighborhood in the comp plan. We've had continuing conversations with those landowners, and they've been seeking partners to develop with, and they're kind of on board with this idea too of being a little bit more flexible between multifamily and duplex. A lot of the interest they're getting would be more like townhouse type or maybe senior housing as opposed to duplexes, and this is kind of an example of where that flexibility I think could benefit a project. They've had a little bit of trouble getting things started because they kind of need a larger part of the neighborhood to get going to justify bringing the utilities down Violas Road and being able to do a little more multifamily and sell that chunk off to someone who does that, like a senior housing developer or somebody like that would benefit them. So we're not asking to approve that or to change the plan tonight, but just kind of bringing this up as an example for some feedback, because last time we talked about it was kind of a more theoretical discussion, and this is a more specific.
Wouldn't that be covered in a plan unit development, that you would come and, I mean, it could, I suppose.
Well, the plan unit development, it's basically a type of a zoning action that would have to be consistent with the comp plan. So it couldn't do something that the comp plan doesn't say if it had a different housing mix or
Okay.
whatever.
I just don't want to see that multifamily parcel, more large apartment buildings. I'm all about senior housing, I'd be fine with some more missing middle townhouse type projects that look good.
Yeah, and when we get around to the final edit of the plan, that's something we could specify as well.
Perhaps maybe, some more either condoed or type stuff, so it is more ownership based. If indeed it would be townhouse type stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna have similar comments, Don. I mean, really trying to get an entry level or downsizing product for someone. I think, we have room for all sorts of housing developments in our community, but I think there's a lot of value in the smaller multifamilies, townhouses, where home ownership is an opportunity for people. So leaving it so broad, when perhaps the 4 to 10 units might be a desirable product, or I'm not sure how we steer developers in that way. Putting a lot of units on one parcel, of course, would make a lot of money, and you have the building owner who rents things out. Like, it's a good investment, I understand, for property owners, but we also want to have good investments for residents. So this is something I think they're grappling with everywhere, with housing costs, but how we can not leave it so broad that we just get another large development. And it's easy when you put in, you work with the first developer, but then when it's out there for, the future in our comp plan, just to help guide what we want to see.
Rick, are there some guardrails that you can put on here that allows a little bit of flexibility, but doesn't necessarily open us up for what has just been said, where you have just this multitude of...
Yeah, at this point, it's more conceptual, right? So nobody's really bound by this. I mean, Aaron, this land's not, it would need to be annexed, right?
It is, well, part of it is annexed, part of it is not. It's all in the urban service area at this point.
So, I mean, when you're talking annexation, you've got a lot of discretion there to establish guardrails, and through the zoning process as well. So I would say at this point, you can, provide suggestions or thoughts, but as far as like clear guardrails right now, it's difficult to do, but you can at least provide, I would say, guidance or direction.
But we can, what you're saying is that there's opportunities to put those as we progress.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
This point, it's more of, do we even start going down that road to get more specific or not?
I think the challenge I see with the increase in the density, I mean, those are all back roads, and certainly they, you do a traffic study and it handles the road, the cars or whatever, but it also doesn't at the same time. I mean, I guess when you build this, there's going to be less deer crossings, but there's quite a bit of deer crossings right there, and all these cars. And I think the other thing is, with all of our high density housing, we still don't have public transit, we don't have mass transit, we don't have a lot of social services within Cottage Grove, we don't have jobs that are walkable from this location. And so increasing that density, really, it actually, it's going to island a lot of people. They're just going to be there, and they're going to have nowhere to go except to get in their car and go somewhere. I think the multifamily homes, I was just sort of flipping back and forth between the two drawings and seeing how the density shifts. Maybe in total it ends up kind of being the same. You're just, instead of single families, you're just shifting it to smaller cubes. But, I think, without a final plan, it's hard to kind of see what's going on. But I think in these outlying areas, we really need to consider not moving into it. This is my sort of opinion, again, not seeing the whole plan. Be very cautious about creating a density that's just not quite supported in that area. I think infrastructure, we probably have it. Alliant Energy, you could probably comment, about their donut issue they still have. But the pumping station's right there. We have lots of water, I guess. So, I don't know, it just seems like the shift is kind of in the wrong direction to sort of densify in that particular spot, being away from the core of the village. So, I don't know, it's my thoughts.
I just wanted to, thinking about that a little bit, because I had a chance to think about the density when this was approved in the urban service area at Carpsey, and a lot of Carpsey commissioners talk about, where's the density, because the county has to grow so much and find so many housing units. But of course, they're concerned with the impact of that development and sprawl and protecting natural areas. So one thing that we did talk about there is the proximity to Old Town area and the jobs that are needed in nursing home environment in that area, and restaurants and Downdren. So it seems so far away now, but really Bakken Park is across the street with the bike path, and that is the route that the bike path would take into Madison. So, we think of it as so far out of the village now. Like, you could walk to work at 1855 from there. You just cross Vilas Road and take the beautiful bike path we just put through Bakken. So to have super dense, that's where I worry about this, like, super broad. But you think about the 4-unit buildings over behind Taylor Prairie, like, that is something that's very desirable. The one that was on the market not very long ago lasted like the first weekend when there was an open house. So to incentivize or steer development in that direction, there's not an easy answer because people would be doing it already, but how do we do that? And I think the building costs are so high, so to build a 4-unit instead of a duplex, we might actually get someone to fulfill that need in our community. So just wanted to think about it in that perspective also. Thanks.
I'd just like to shoot for owner occupied if possible. Or like I said, I'm fine with senior housing of any sort, but the more owner occupied we can get, even if it is a 4-unit.
We probably can't put that specification in there, can we?
Yeah, I'll defer to Rick on what's legal or not in that regard.
Yeah, not at this stage. I think you can make your thoughts known. And, I mean, so hypothetically, let's say a developer comes forward with like an annexation petition and you want a concept plan at that point. So you annex the territory and then they bring something in completely different than that. Say, when it comes to the rezoning, you can just flat say no. I mean, that's not what we brought this land in for. So at this point in the process, it's just sort of big picture thinking. And once we take the next steps towards like actual annexation, rezoning, plats, then we can establish more guardrails or be more direct in what our conditions are of the approvals.
And so that's kind of in regards to 2001 Realty specifically, but we're also kind of talking about changing comp plans based on housing study. It's kind of like 2 parts, is that sort of?
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of an example of, what we were talking about more generally before. Each planned neighborhood can be more customized and have different mixes or different layouts if we want them to.
But other neighborhoods that may, talking about before annexation, like the end of Taylor Street, I don't know what that's called, Oaks or something. They've already been, that's annexed into the village already.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and just another comment, what Aaron mentioning the comprehensive plan. I mean, you do have sort of that like future land use plan, so you could, designate that area. I mean, you could play around with the comp plan a lot to determine what you think your future uses might be in that area, because any zoning is going to have to be consistent with that comp plan.
Yeah, you can be as specific as you want, but you don't want to plan yourself in a corner where you've only outlined something that nobody actually wants to build. It's good to have balance the flexibility versus the specificity, I guess.
Well, and then you have people that have approvals on things that we want to build, but they haven't broken ground yet. So there's that, like, Yeah, there's a challenge
there's-
every part of the way.
The
I
comp
guess.
plan changes would be
Yeah.
for new areas,
Right.
not for existing ones.
Thanks.
So in general, is the commission okay with Aaron continuing to press ahead and, get back to us with some ideas?
Yes.
I should say Tim Olson is on the line here. I don't.
Oh.
Tim, if you had any other questions or comments based on what you're hearing?
If you're trying to talk, you might
Maybe
still
not.
be on mute.
Otherwise, I can touch base with Tim later this week.
Okay. All right, then we'll move to continued discussion of lot coverage and other density and intensity and bulk regulations for SR-4 zoning district.
So this was the conversation we started with Andrew Homburg last meeting. He was pointing out that the building coverage limits that we had was getting to be a little bit restrictive compared to other places he's worked and in practice in the West Lawn neighborhood. I think we left off with that conversation that you guys wanted to see some more context of what some of the communities around us have in that regard. So generally speaking, it looks like our 30% building coverage limit was the most restrictive out of these comparable communities. Madison, Verona, and Middleton allowed up to 35%. The rest didn't have a limit on building coverage. They just limited the impervious surface coverage, which is kind of the figure you're looking at when you're determining stormwater runoff and things like that. I guess in my opinion, that impervious surface limit is really more important than the building limit. I would be okay with getting rid of the building coverage limit, but if you're not comfortable with that, I think at least moving it to the 35% would give a little more wiggle room in some of these neighborhoods. The examples Andrew was showing, the 35% I think would cover most of the ones he's having issues with. And again, we're not officially making the change. We're talking about whether I should start drafting stuff up or not.
Questions, comments?
How is it now that it's a problem for him and none of our other developers brought this up as an issue, or like why how now? Or have other communities shifted in time? So we set ours at 30, and we did it at the dawn of time, and the reason we picked that is all the other communities were 25, and we figured, 30 would be progressive. And then everybody else has since moved into different directions, or like, how is it hampering, and I guess really to the builders, not just Humbers, how is this impacting their ability to create
kind of-
spaces for their clients, right?
Two parts to that, I guess. With the building coverage being more limited, you kind of need more land for a bigger house. So I think the lot prices in those neighborhoods kind of justify the bigger homes, and that's where he kind of starts running into these limits where he wasn't before. As far as how the ordinance may have evolved, when you start looking through these, you can kind of tell which ones were written by the same person, and then they kind of get tweaked and evolved over time, as you're saying. So I don't know exactly when these different changes were made. I don't think we've changed ours probably since it was written.
So if the land, I guess there's a couple of things in there too. So if the land, we evolve, we get a little bit better, but if the land prices are shifting, does that create, it sort of creates pause to say, hey, is the strategy correct, right? But just because the land prices are shifting, that's not really that's not in our care. Like, okay, the land is owned by a private entity, they choose to market it for, you know, $200,000 for the dirt, and if somebody chooses to buy it, then that's the economy of what it's doing. Our job is to say, hey, this is what looks good in this village. You know, it is a bit of social engineering. You know, we just looked at this plot before, and what does it look like? So what's the impact of the village if we don't change this, right? I mean, the builders are still gonna build within the guidelines, right? I mean,
They can't build exactly what the homeowner wants, I think is what it comes down to. The homeowner wants something slightly bigger.
is there an example of somebody not buying in the village because they couldn't get an extra sunroom, or like, do we have that specific, or is it sort of anecdotal
I'm
at this point?
sure it's happened. If he's bringing it up, it's impacting him.
I think we've seen that we're the most restrictive,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
and so Aaron's
And I think-
done the due
But again, why
diligence.
did the other villages move?
I think
right?
the other
Yep.
part of it, we also had the largest minimum lot size until we created another district that allowed smaller ones at 10,000 square feet. I think when some of these have started shifting to allowing smaller lot sizes, then they had to kind of bump up the building coverage to, make the pieces fit.
We wanted that because we wanted houses with side yards and backyards and frontage and not right on the sidewalk. I mean, we wanted that. I mean, is this something that we would almost, we should talk to our, petition the neighbors, or is it, I mean, obviously we represent the neighbors, but is this what the community wants? To say, hey, I'm okay with bigger homes, on these smaller lots. Is there tax impact? Do we get benefit from that? Does the village get benefit from that? Like, so what is,
It would be assessed higher.
it would be
Yeah.
assessed higher, so does that help me in my little house on my small property? Like, my
Yeah.
taxes go down?
If
There's more-
everybody's
I
in the
don't-
same bucket, so yes, eventually it does if you have enough of them.
I think that's the other thing is, I mean, I understand the builders sort of like, hey, this feels good, but it's also, we're here to regulate what the community's asking us to regulate, what's within the standards of that we wrote in our comp plans and stuff like that, so.
We're not changing any setbacks per se, so we're still maintaining our same side yards. So then they're gonna have to expand it some way to fit within those setbacks.
Yeah, the envelope is the same. It's just how much of that envelope are you using or
I mean,
not?
they could always build up, if you want a bigger house, build up,
Yeah.
3 stories, cost goes up. And I think, to your point though, you're right, the impervious is what I always sort of look at too, right? You can't pave the whole lot, you need to have soaking and that type of stuff, so. It's just interesting request. I mean, have other builders approached you, or you just have the one request?
So far, just the one.
Does one request trigger money to be spent by the village for this?
Well, it triggers the conversation, and I
Triggers
guess
the
you guys
conversation,
can
is fine, but we're gonna have to
decide
get a
what we wanna
comp
do.
plan, it's gonna have to go through legally things and all this other stuff for one current request.
I think they've done the majority of the development in the village, and so I think, and they've done a good job of it. So I don't think Andrew came in here just to come in here.
No, I'm all,
Yeah,
I get all
right.
that, but is it worth, I mean, how much is it gonna cost to change this number?
Well, you can ask that with anything we talked about,
We probably should.
yeah.
I guess I don't like the fact that we're an outlier again. And we can, we're not just competing for Hamburg, but other developers in the future. And so why should we be that outlier? We should just adjust it so it's more flexible for folks who want to build a home here.
What's easier, Aaron, the 35% or calculating impervious surface?
I mean, to me, the impervious surface and the limiting the runoff is the more important number.
And that's what some of the communities are doing.
Yeah.
I would say I wouldn't want to be an outlier. This may be a trend in how homes are being built, what consumers are asking for, and these are new property owners in our community, and they have a voice. This is what they're asking. They're a developer to build, and so we should consider that. And styles of homes may be different. A lot of people are building ranch-style homes with walkout basements versus two-story homes, and I think that we should provide that flexibility for property owners to make that decision and make sure that developers are building that to our specifications responsibly with stormwater. So my main question is how that changes our stormwater calculations. As Andrew talked a little bit about, like, I have control over we do the groundwork and their development, but if we're changing all the regulation, future developments might be organized differently, or have other people coming in to make sure that the drainage works properly. If every single property in the whole development, changed their footprint, that might have an impact on how much stormwater is going into detention ponds. So just, I want to make sure we're still falling within, our stormwater regulations.
So when they come in with a plat, would they do the worst-case scenario on each lot?
Yeah. In the interest of keeping costs down, I didn't get Josh working on this yet, but we can put him on the spot and see if he has any thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's a good question. You're right, Heidi, in that you're gonna have to follow the minimum standards, right? The minimum Dane County, which you guys follow standards, DNR standards as far as stormwater. If it's specific to new development and new areas, you're gonna have to assume kind of the worst case, right? Probably to make sure you achieve those standards that you have to meet. I think that would be part of their stormwater management plan when they come forward with it, like they do any other plat or development.
I guess in this,
Just make sure that we understood their land use.
so in this case, we wouldn't necessarily be changing that worst case because we're not changing the impervious surface ratio at all. We're just kind of not limiting how much of it is building versus something else at this point.
My last question on that is it retroactive? So the community can add 5% to their properties? You're unlocking it, right? You're unlocking it for everybody, not just new? How does it work?
I guess that was the intention. If you didn't want to do that, you could create a new zoning district for new
No, I don't
development
want to
areas that,
overcomplicate it,
yeah.
for sure. I would just unlock it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's unlocked.
right.
It's only
That would be the preferred option, but yeah.
It's only 5%.
5% for everybody. Build on the village hall.
Any opposition? I think I'm hearing that, at least I'm hearing, make sure I'm understanding, that the commission's okay with adjusting from the 30 to 35%.
And/or
And/or eliminating it.
limiting the impervious surface, whatever.
Just go.
We're fine either way. If you want to make it a percentage, or if you want to make it the impervious surface.
You want to keep the cost down, 0 to 5 is pretty easy. I'm just saying,
Red pen, 5.
but if the,
I guess if I can make a quick comment, and I've been in the village for, 27 years, is, the last 5, 7, 10 years, it doesn't seem like the restrictions we have in place have kept people from coming to the village, building in the village, making their home in the village, having their family in the village. I'm not sure why we would want to just conform to other communities just to conform. I think we have a certain character, and all of a sudden you're going to have homes that are, closer together, and some people like that, and I understand that, and I think there's communities that they could go to get that. I'm not sure that I want someone closer to me or take up more of their lot just to have a bigger structure on it or whatever. So I understand we want to be competitive with other communities, but it doesn't seem like it's in the least bit held us back in the recent years. Our population has gone from, what, 6,000 people 4 or 5 years ago to 10,000 people. Doesn't seem like people are not coming here because of this.
Troy, the setbacks wouldn't change with this. The setbacks are the same, so nobody's moving closer to one another from that perspective. It's just the space on that lot that they would take up could change up to an extra 5%. Am I understanding that right?
I understand that.
Giving
I-
more
The point
flexibility,
I'm making
basically.
is do we want a home take up just a huge percentage of a lot? You know, it's like driving down Cicero Avenue in Chicago all of a sudden. Homes are you know, maxed out to the exact lot and to the restrictions, and I don't know. I guess I'm not a big fan of changing it just to change it to draw more people to the village. It doesn't seem like we have a hard time drawing people to the village now.
All right. Again, other than maybe Troy, am I hearing others concerned about changing 30 to 35?
As long as their setbacks stay the same.
Yeah. And that gives a little more flexibility for some homeowners. Got what you need?
You can draft something up and then take another look at it.
And then we'll kick at it again. Future agenda items? I'm ready.
Yeah, so this ordinance amendment, and as long as we're doing that, we might incorporate some of the parking things we talked about a few meetings ago. There weren't a ton of those, but rather than piecemealing these changes, try to collect them and do them in bigger chunks. I don't know if Debbie will be back with her plat. Kind of depends how the dates fall, whether she can get that in far enough ahead or not. Those are the things that come to mind. There may be some other stuff that comes up.
Okay. All right. With
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
we have a motion and a second then, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Everybody have a good rest of your week.